What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Highlight. I am your host, Chandler Lyles, and today I'm joined by my buddy, my co-host, and some days, unfortunately, my business partner, Mr. Austin Lynch. Austin, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. Glad to be in business with you, Chandler, as always. Feeling serious today.
You're only saying that because you're trying to make me look bad, and that's okay.
Yeah, well,
I see how it is. Speaking of people looking bad, I think you look great today. You're in the company attire. Our colors are seafoam green. I forgot we're in the color scheme there.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, this is just one of those shirts that if it's like clean, I'm wearing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one shows back up.
It is a great polo. I've seen you golf in that one a couple times. You play well when you got that shirt on. That's
I feel confident
shirt.
In this shirt.
Yeah, it's like tiger and red on Sunday.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, I can't really fake it with the audience. You know, I would act like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. How you been? We could do this like back and forth thing. But you and I, we literally got lunch together today, and I think we had one of the craziest, odd, unique stories of over the top service. That is it possible for customer service to go too far? Let's start there.
Yes, it is. I think, not to bury the lead here, but I mean, I think we experienced that today. I think you can certainly do too much, and maybe too frequently to kind of make the experience maybe a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. So as we've talked about so many times, and I'm sure we'll talk about 100 times today, my last business was a barbecue restaurant. So like, service in the restaurant industry is tough to nail down. There's a fine line between you're too incompetent, like McDonald's, and you're like too over the top weird, like what happened today. So we went to this place for lunch today, and fast forward to Austin and a friend of ours who was joining us. They both ordered appetizers. Appetizers come out, about 5 minutes go by. Now Austin is a little bit of a slow eater. I will take a minute here to talk about one of my gripes with my business partner is that he eats very, very slow. And the other day we went to Waffle House for a little hangout, and I was literally done, and you were a quarter of the way through. And it's you know, it's something you're gonna have to work on. I think your slow eating is stressful for all of us. Anyways, it stressed out the waitress today because you were about 7 minutes into your app, and it was only like half gone. And she kindly walked up and said, you know, hey, are you guys done with those appetizers? I'd be happy to take them from you. And you said, no, still working on it. And she disappears. And I want to say like 2 minutes go by. It couldn't have been more than 2 minutes, right?
I agree, yeah.
2 minutes goes by, and then all of a sudden she reappears and asks again, are you guys done with those appetizers? And on the second time, we're like, hey, it was a little weird timing-wise, but we were like, oh, maybe she got mixed up. Maybe she got confused.
Sure,
And we said, we did the thing. Like, no, we're still working on it. No problem. Our buddy, he had a salad. I don't think he had taken one bite of his salad in that time.
I don't think so.
So we were together for like an hour, and I think she must have come up trying to clear dishes 10 times.
Yeah, I was going to say at least 8 times.
In minimum increments of every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there was like a 15, 20-minute window where she was not around. There was still a ton of food on the plate because, as stated previously, you eat very slowly. There was a whole giant calzone thing on your plate still. I think you had 4 bites of this thing 15 minutes in. And, also one of the reasons you eat slow is you talk a lot. You have lots of stories, and then you're telling them. And the food's getting cold. To tell them. And she's thinking you're just watching your figure, I think, and trying not to eat all this food. I don't know. I'm just like, it was over the top. It was too much. She just kept coming back. And Jack, my son, who is 6 months old, joined us. And I'm so glad he was there because where I was sitting, I was against the window, and you guys had your back to the restaurant, and I could see her coming up. And every time I'd see her approach, I would just start to laugh And I, I had to like I felt so bad, but my boy Jack, he bailed me out. It was like, I kept looking at him going, I was just laughing at him, but I wasn't laughing at him. I was using him as cover, like, oh, look at the cute baby. While I'm crying, I'm laughing so hard because she's coming back so frequently.
I had to wipe my eyes too. At one point, I almost had a spit take. I had taken a sip of Coke right before she walked up, and I almost lost it. It would have been bad.
I don't know. Let us know in the comments. Like, is it too much service? Are we being really mean? Is it, is this one of those situations where we need to relax on the service industry workers because they're working hard and all the things? Like, let us know.
Yeah, maybe we're sticklers on these things, but
it was a lot. It felt like a lot. I don't know. Maybe these
every
are
3 minutes
problems
over the course of 30 minutes is a lot. Yeah,
it was a lot. Well, I've been practicing my transitions, and I think you're going to like this one. So,
okay,
one would say that she struggled with time management and ranking her task inside of her calendar. She was too frequently checking in on the table. She was really struggling. And so today, you're so kind. You've brought us, I think maybe inspired by lunch today, how many is it? 3 or 5?
I've got 5.
We have 5 free tools that you like to use to help manage your time. So I'm going to give it over to you, man.
Absolutely, yeah. So 5 free tools anyone can have access to manage your time and your tasks. Certainly as, you might be growing a business, your lists might be growing, not to mention the things you got going on at home. It's easy to just let things slip through the cracks. And I've learned that letting things slip through the cracks can be expensive. So I've been trying to find as many of these helpful tools, especially if they're available to us for free, right? To kind of help and kind of mitigate some of those risks, help keep things organized, keep things in line. Especially when you're moving at such a fast pace. You just need to have those things in place. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 tools, and hopefully our listeners will get something out of this and be able to walk away with a couple of fresh ideas. So I guess I'll kick it off at the top, and this one feels pretty obvious, but it's extremely, extremely useful. And that is just utilizing your Google and Outlook calendars. Chandler, I know you're a huge fan of Google Calendars and making sure that you've got all your tasks in order and all your meetings as they should appear. And that's a big one for me too, because not only, does it allow you to, quickly check what you have in line for the day, or maybe even what you have for the rest of the week, but obviously it helps people that might be trying to schedule something with you see, what else you've got going on and kind of how much time you actually have at any given point. So Google and Outlook calendars seemed like one of the most obvious number ones in terms of time management and making sure that you're able to, not overload yourself through the day.
Yeah, I do love a Google Calendar. I try to put everything on a calendar. I have a rule: if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. That includes both my to-do list and
it's reasonable.
Any meeting. If you're like, hey, I think you've definitely told me before, hey, let's jump on a call to talk about X, Y, and Z. I think we just did this with an operating
like last week
conversation. Yeah. This was like literally 3 days ago. And you were telling me, you were like, hey, I got this lawyer. He kicked back some questions. We need to talk to him. Yeah. And these are important questions we got to answer because it's like hundreds of dollars an hour. Like we should have been lawyers. Yeah. That's what I've learned in that scenario. And the day comes and the day goes. I think I told you to throw it on my calendar and like I'm happy to do it. Yeah. I got some time at 5:30, whatever.
Yep.
And
it's
never put it on the calendar. And then what happened the next day? You texted me and you go,
exactly.
Oh, hey, I think I forgot to do this. And I'm like, nobody thinks you forgot. I think you just definitely forgot.
Definitely forgot. I was in the process of confirming that I forgot, and in fact, I did forget.
You did, in fact, forget. I think what's great about the calendar is the reminders, right? They just pop up. They let you know. And they're like, hey, get to this thing. My favorite part is when you have the address in the place and it syncs up to the map and it says, hey, you better leave now
easy.
Because I am late. And I know you hate that about me, but I am late to basically everything now, which is ironic because I didn't used to be that way in the military. But now I'm just like habitually 5 minutes late to everything.
Yeah. Well, the Google Calendar helps a lot with that. And, again, like you said, the hourly law bill is not cheap. And that was something that easily slipped through the cracks on a Friday afternoon. And luckily we were able to get that fixed. But Google and Outlook calendars, that's number one on the list of free tools that'll help you manage your time and your tasks as you get ramped up. The second one is one that we've kind of implemented recently as a company, and it has really made a big difference in terms of our organization as a team. And that is using kind of a collective dashboard to manage things like your goals, manage things like your weekly measurables, to-do lists that kind of move the business forward. And we use Notion for that. It's a available tool that's very easy to use, super customizable, and it allows you to store things like CRM, notes that everyone can see, and again, company goals, measurables. We can always jump in there and see them. And then just like maybe a Google Doc or something else, as you're updating it, people can see that in real time. So Notion was kind of the easy number two on the list in terms of helping just stay on top of items that could easily fall off. Again, HighBeam, we use Notion largely to keep track of large business items that are moving forward. It's not necessarily day-to-day client tasks, but things that allow our business to move forward. And these are those type of things that can easily fall off your plate when, you're worried about providing top tier service to your clients. So again, Notion board, if you haven't used Notion before and you don't have a system like this in place to kind of share just a good solid place for business movers, I guess, give Notion a check out. And what do you think about that one, Chandler? I mean, I know it's so new to us, but it has made a difference.
Yeah, I think we've been using that for a couple months. We didn't start with that. I think we were updating like a Google Sheet spreadsheet, which was great too.
It worked
because it was free. But Notion was like a really nice upgrade, and they have a great free tier that we're still in. I think if we add maybe one or two more people, we'll be out of that. But for us at the scale we're at, it really brought two things. One, organization. And out of that organization, all of a sudden, we're able to have clear communication with each other. We have a weekly team meeting, which is where we were at lunch today. It was our weekly meeting. And, we basically run through that whole board. We hit up our goals, make sure those are the right goals. Are we on track? Are we off track? We go through our entire customer list. What are we missing? What's working? We just identify issues. We talk about them, and we organize all of that in Notion. And it just really helps us all clearly communicate with each other about the things that matter the most. Because when you're starting a business like this, you're an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are really, entrepreneurs are people that love ideas, and they love the excitement of new, and they have big visions, and they want to go and do all the things and run around and da-da-da-da-da. Something like Notion, the system that is Notion, or any other note taker like that, is that, or dashboard, like you said, that's just going to help bring you down out of the clouds a little bit and make sure we're all talking about the right things. Because if it was left up to me and you, I think we'd just be talking about, I don't know, buying Ferraris someday for an hour. I could very easily see that happening.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things that I'll call out that you kind of mentioned was, the different people on our team. We run in different directions and we do different things, but there are often times where our work overlaps, and one team member could greatly benefit another. And I feel like the Notion board, especially with issues lists and things like that, have really made it easy for our team to not only stay up to date on what each other are working on, but to kind of, merge into each other's lanes a little bit and help out where we can, especially if we know that we can move an item across the board a little bit quicker, just based on our skill set. So, Notion, definitely an easy second place there. I would say another big one that kind of goes alongside Notion, and there's a reason why I included this next, is utilizing a Kanban board. This is one, Chandler, that obviously the two of us utilized a lot of in our last full-time jobs, and we were kind of forced to use this kind of ideology and this method to organize and move tasks. But we recently integrated a Kanban board into our Notion dashboard, which we were just talking about. Chandler, do you want to give a stab at kind of explaining what Kanban methodology is? I know this is a super exciting task for the two of us here.
Yeah, I have a real love-hate relationship with that thing. It's identifying I can do this. I swear I can do this. It is identifying the most important task for the team as a whole, broken up into very, very small pieces and ranked from highest priority to lowest priority. And then our board's very simple. I've seen it get much more complicated than this, but we basically have a backlog of ideas that are ranked by priority. We have a working on, and then we have a done. And there's this thing called a WIP limit, and we don't want to get too technical, but like basically you don't want to be working on too many things at one time. So for me personally, I might work on 2 activities at once max. And so I might edit a video and work on a spreadsheet update at the same time, just so I can get some flavor difference in my day and change it up. But I won't bring another task onto the board until one of those 2 things is delivered all the way through. And again, it's back to this idea of communication. I think time management a lot comes down to communicating with yourself and what's a priority to you, and then communicating to your team around you so that they know, like, oh, I need to get Austin to do this thing. And then I go to the board and see what he's already working on before I fire off an email to him and say, hey, have you thought about this yet? I don't want to distract him when that board is very clearly already laying out the objectives that we have. Otherwise, what happens is a bunch of entrepreneurs running around going, hey, this is a good idea. Hey, this is a good idea. Hey, this is a good idea. And they just throw it up on the board. And then all it does is lead to chaos, confusion, and aggravation. And that's a really solid recipe for burnout. I mean, everybody's just going to get pissed off at each other and then yell at the poor waitress for checking on the table too much.
And I think one thing that you said that was perfect there is you talked about the communication and collaboration within a team. And the way that the Kanban board works is you kind of have a card that houses all the information within one project or one piece of the project. And then you see it visually move across the board as the work gets completed. And the cool thing is you can write notes and kind of comments as you work along the project, and you can tag people. And so if you're ever wondering kind of where, a certain project stands, you can go look at the comments and kind of see what people have been saying. It might be like hey, I did this thing and I'm waiting on Facebook to respond. And that way you don't have to go bother that person, take them off of the flow of work they're already in. Instead, you can just go look and say, hey, they're, waiting on Facebook to respond. Got it. And you're able then to move on. So Kanban board's really cool. Obviously like I said, we were able to build one within Notion. So it's all in one place, which is pretty cool. The next free tool is going to be one that's one of my personal favorites, and it is Slack for communications. So if you haven't used Slack before, it's kind of your typical team messaging app. It's going to be similar to your Microsoft Teams, your Discord, something like that, but it allows you to break up your kind of topics that you would talk about or that you might need to run through into different channels. And so it keeps all of your communication clear and kind of, I guess segmented in the way that it needs to be so it doesn't get so convoluted. It also allows you to PM people directly or create little groups within your team. And then personally, Chandler, obviously, as I like to remind you, fun is a core value in this company, and it allows you to super easily throw in, GIFs, all kinds of funny plugins that you can kind of keep the morale up along your team. And it's just an app that I have really loved and I think stands out above the rest when we look at communication platforms. The 5th free tool that I want to talk about today that has helped us manage our time and our tasks is one that I probably use the most. It's super easy to use. I think everyone probably uses this to some extent, but I have really found my rhythm using this. And it's simple as Apple Notes. I have a kind of theology that all of your to-dos should be in one place, and that includes work to-dos. Obviously, we both still have full-time situations as well as our side work, and so I like to keep all of these to-do lists in one place, including my personals, my work, and that way it just gives me one place to go and look to see what I need to do. And what's cool about Apple Notes is if you do a lot of work on your computer, but you're also out and about, going to meetings, going to networking meetings, your phone will auto-update your notes when you update it in your phone or update it in your computer. So it's always going to be synced and in one place. This has been huge for me as we continue to grow as a company and our loads kind of get more and more filled. I've got kind of our high beam stuff, and it's got, networking, it's got proposals, it's got client work in progress. Then I also have a personal to-do list under that with similar categories, and it helps me just kind of look at everything in one spot. And I've learned that I work best when a task lands on my board. If I immediately put it onto this list, I know it's not going to slip through the cracks, and I know it'll get accomplished one way or another. The other thing I've been doing to kind of manage the time of these tasks and the timeliness of these tasks is I assign a kind of to-do date. And so by each task, you'll see a date, a semicolon, the client, and then the task. And so it kind of keeps everything in order. And there are some tasks that, I need to do several times a week. So when I check it off, I'll add it again for a couple of days later. Things like checking on budgets, making sure that campaigns are optimized. They need to be the way they need to be. Apple Notes has basically saved my life since starting this company and obviously becoming a dad. It's just allowed me to kind of keep my brain free from just the convolution of so many different things, and allowed me to just put it all into a place that's organized and allows me to just check down the list each time I log in for the day.
Yeah, I love Apple Notes. Obviously, I'm an iPhone user, but for those of you out there that don't have an iPhone, or maybe you don't like Apple Notes for whatever reason, Google has a free version. Google Keep, I believe, is the name of their note-taking app. I use Evernote a ton. You have a free tier where it goes on 2 devices, I believe, where you get, so I put it on my laptop and my phone, and it's free, and I'm way under the storage limit. And I'm a big fan of Evernote, and so that's not operating system dependent. I will say that this really comes down to you need something that is going to seamlessly sync across all your devices, because if it doesn't,
absolutely,
what you don't want to have happen is like you're on the phone and you can't really look at your note, and you need to be able to access information in the middle of a sales call or something like that. So it's all about ease and speed of use and making sure you're able to look as professional as possible. I mean, I don't know. I don't love to stumble over my words like, oh, let me put you on hold for a second and check my notes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's important to just have it accessible, easy to find, clear to read. And, over time, when you start to build this kind of a system, it'll just become second nature. The second I have a client or, anyone I'm working with ask me for something, the first thing I do is I go straight to this list. I add it as an item with a date. And, that just allows me to pick up on it and kind of stay true to, the due date that I kind of said when I initially talked about this item. So
I would say
that's a
that
great one.
I do want to say with all these tools, none of them are magical. They are all
that's true.
Tools. You cannot have a plan to build a birdhouse and then look at a hammer and then just wonder why the hammer didn't build the birdhouse. It takes the user to pick the hammer up, pick up a nail, combine 2 things, and nail it in.
Absolutely.
And all these tools are great, and you're going to feel this really awesome dopamine rush as you get them set up, especially the first time, especially if this is your first business and it's early on. You're going to feel like,
that's very true.
I am the best entrepreneur on the planet. Look how organized I am. And then 2 days later, when the dopamine has left, you will have let your systems fall apart. Ignore that feeling. Do what you know is right. Do the work, do the hard thing, use the tool, and build a cool birdhouse, and then sell it on Etsy or whatever your company does.
Amen. That's right. Maybe we should
and
start
if you
building
need
birdhouses.
help marketing it.
That's right. If you need help marketing it. Well, as you guys know, if you guys have listened to the podcast before, this podcast is sponsored by us. Chandler and I sponsor it and we run it all through our company, High Beam Marketing. So if you're currently running a business, you're currently kind of running around doing all these different things yourself, you probably have lots of different profiles and things like that are in various stages. We will help you come in. We'll look at all of your different marketing collateral, your different accounts, anything that's public facing, and we'll do a cool little marketing audit where we kind of show you, what's going really well, where you have opportunities to improve, and then kind of explain to you how we could come in and help you move those items forward if you'd like help with those. So feel free to jump in. Go to highbeammarketing.com. We have a contact form there. Fill that out, and we'll get back to you, and we can get started on that pretty quickly.
You nailed it.
How was that?
That was perfect. We're switching roles a little bit on this episode. We're just trying some new things, and I have taken over the fun part of the show at the end because I can also be a goober, and I'm going to take over.
I can't believe it.
So yeah, I had to find, the challenge was you gave to me, find something sentimental that was within arm's reach of your desk, and
something you keep in your office.
Well, I don't have, a lot of pictures on the wall. I keep it clean. The desk is clean. My wife really is into the minimalism design. I'm not allowed to have things on the wall, but the thing I do hide in my desk is my grandfather's pocket knife from back in the day. And he's no longer with us, but this is a cool little memento that sometimes I'll take out. And this thing has to be from, the 70s or 80s. It's pretty old. It's pretty cool. It's just fun to have reflect on some memories. So
very fun.
That's what I got. Austin, thanks for letting me steal the segment, man. I think we're going to let him go on that one. We appreciate everybody listening, and we will see you next week.
See ya.